Hello, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to join me while I present this short video with an overview of how to load up a multi-node cluster within GoAnywhere. I am Scott Messick, a solutions engineer with Fortra, covering our file transfer, email security solutions, as well as the content scanning engines that go along with the file transfer solutions for malware, threat protection, DLP, so on and so forth. So let's get right at it. As you see here, I have our user guide pulled up. This is available in the GoAnywhere customer portal. You can download installation, content, upgrades, documentation. You can also see a lot of this or all this information in your GoAnywhere admin portal once you install GoAnywhere by just using the question marks at the top right-hand section anywhere in the console. So I've typed in the word cluster. You'll see here I've got clustering. I just navigating to that now, and I have some basic information about the cluster, the coordinator versus the participant, duties, some prerequisites. I've already got 2 Windows servers loaded, 2025. I've got GoAnywhere installed and configured. Both nodes are using the same version of GoAnywhere. Java is in sync. The time is in sync. Some information about project and monitor execution. So let's go ahead and get into the first cluster. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check our licensing, make sure we have the cluster feature enabled, make sure that our database has been externalized, which has already been done. I'll go over that. And then there's a bunch of areas where we've moved central file shares that the cluster needs. And all these are fully documented. I'll go through some of them. And then once we do that, we'll make sure that no one's signed into the system. And then we can start working on prepping the cluster.xml file. We're going to change the host name. We're going to change the IP address, ports. We're going to use a port 8006 in our documentation just to make sure that that port is available. Enabling the cluster, stopping GoAnywhere, restarting it, and then checking the system log. So that's what we're going to do to set up the first node, the coordinator. So we're going to go ahead and sign in to GoAnywhere. We'll check the licensing. And then what we'll do is we'll check some file shares, the database externalization, and then we'll go from there. So if I go into my help, check my license, and what I should see here is I have the clustering feature, which I do. I'm going to go into system. I'm going to go into my database configuration. As you can see here, I've moved to a Microsoft SQL Server. We have a wizard, the Switch database wizard, that allows for you to take that default Derby database and move it to database of your choice that we support. Everything is fully set up here. There's not too much back-end work that has to be done from a logistical standpoint other than just setting up the database server and prepping it. All of our documentation is updated to walk you through that. If I go into our global settings, you'll see under the data tab, I've externalized a number of these shares. Our documentation is fully up to date with all the locations that I've already moved that need to be updated. So let's go ahead and sign out of the GoAnywhere console. I know that there's no one using it. I could have checked my active sessions, but I know that no one is using it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the GoAnywhere service. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at that cluster.xml file. You'll see here I put my host name in here, my IP address, a port that's available, and set the clustering to enabled and set the true. So here is my cluster XML. I'm going to copy that to my install folder. I'm going to go into the config folder, and we're just going to go ahead and paste that. We're going to replace it. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to restart GoAnywhere. And then we'll check the logs according to our documentation, and we're going to check that we have the coordinator role. Now, while that's starting up, I will just show you, I'll go into my node 2 folder, which I already have prepped. And if we take a look at that cluster.xml, you'll see here that I've got a different node name. That's my second node in the cluster, IP addressing, port, all of the rest of the configuration is similar. And we're taking the database XML, which we got off the first node that's been externalized, and we're going to copy both of those. But let's go ahead and let's sign back into the GoAnywhere console. And this will allow for us to check on things to see how the cluster looks on the first node. We're just waiting for our connection to get reset here, and then we'll sign back into GoAnywhere. Sign you back in. We'll check our log folder, and then what we'll do is we'll check under system. If we go into the cluster manager, we should see that we are the coordinator. And if we go into our reporting audit logs, we should see that we are the cluster membership change coordinator. Okay, so we are good to go. That was an accident. Let me close that feature. And now what we're going to do is we're going to connect to the second node. We're going to stop the GoAnywhere cluster service. I've got my services applet already prepped. We're going to stop the we've already stopped the node on the second service. Yep. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go back into the Node 2 folder. We're going to go ahead and copy both of those files. And I've got the install folder already prepped for my shortcut. So I'm going to go ahead and copy both of those files, replace both of those files. So now what we should be able to do is start the GoAnywhere service. Now that we have both of those files prepped, and what I'll do is, while that's running, because that takes a couple of moments to set up in the background, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the documentation. You can see here, we just have to check the clustering feature. In the license, we're going to move the database, copy the database XML from the primary node, copy the cluster XML from the primary node. We did both of those tasks. Then we're going to restart GoAnywhere, which we did. Now we're going to check the audit logs, and we're going to make sure that the second node is the participant. Because that takes a couple of moments to spin up, I like to prep that. And then for the short video, now we can come back into GoAnywhere. And we can check our cluster manager, and let's see now. We'll refresh this a couple of times. We'll wait for that second node to come back online again. Let's just refresh GoAnywhere. It looks like the service is still running on that second node. That was the other services applet. Sorry, wrong services applet. Let me refresh. That was the local machine. This is the second node. So we have that running, still running. And now here is the participant. The second node comes into the cluster. And now what we're going to do is we're going to check our audit logs and scroll down to the bottom. And what we should see is no errors. So if we come down in here, we're just purging some files. We scroll up a little bit, and here is the coordinator. Participant is the second node in the cluster. So we are good to go with our GoAnywhere 2-node cluster. Thanks for taking the time to watch this short video. If you have any questions, you can reach out to our support team or your account manager, and we'd be glad to help.